So last week we saw that Micah has prophesied that Yahweh himself will reign in Zion. And in doing so, he's going to become the arbiter of mankind. It's no longer going to be anyone. And we rightly pointed out, we haven't seen this happen yet, which is going to take place. But our command in the interim is to endure as a woman with child. We're going to have to go through the pain, we're going to have to go through the labor, anticipating what will be the joy of birth. And all things get a little darker before the dawn. Here's what Micah said. He said, "Now gather thyself in troops, O daughter of troops. He hath laid siege against us. They shall smite the judge of Israel with a rod upon his cheek." Okay. When he says daughter of troops, this is an interesting description. What that means is it's consolidation of what's left. The daughter of the troops. It's imagine an army that's been utterly defeated, and they're going to take a valiant last stand. And so they gather what's left of the troops. And that's what he's describing. He's describing total military collapse. And they've gathered together what's left. And Jerusalem has become the last stronghold. And they have the enemy surrounded them. That's what Micah's describing here during the time spell. But thou, Bethlehem Ephratah, though thou be little among the thousands of Judah, yet out of thee shall he come forth unto me that is to be ruler in Israel, whose goings forth have been from old, from everlasting. Okay, from the most unlikely place. Bethlehem is backwater, not really a suburb of Jerusalem. It's, back before we had cars. It's just a backwater place, the most unlikely place, and it's from here that Micah says that the ruler is going to come. And the description of him is rather distinct. His going forth are from old, everlasting. Now, these are very specific terms. From old, that refers to the primordial. That refers to the time before time was kept. And so we can go back to Genesis chapter 1, chapter 2, or Genesis chapter 1, verse 2, the very beginnings of creation. Well, that's when his existence was. That's when his going forth had been. And a past he describes as everlasting, an everlasting past. Now, you already know everlasting means there's no end. It is everlasting. And that's also what's promised to us, right? We are promised everlasting life. Here's what Jesus said. "He that hears my words and believes on him that sent me hath everlasting life. He shall not come into condemnation, but he's passed from death unto life." This is interesting. He describes a passageway, a passage from being a walking dead man to being a living man or woman. And we can understand the meaning. And so we all realize we have a beginning. For some of you, it was a long time ago. Way back there. We have been promised everlasting life. And we rightly understand that means there's no end to it. So let's think about this. If there was a timeline of my life, you put that timeline, the beginning of my life would have been in May of 1968. I was born until February of 69, you understand. So May 1968, and so that dot on the timeline, you look forward, there's not going to be an end. It's everlasting. So that makes sense. But Micah, he's not referring to the future. He's referring to the past. When he talks about this ruler that's coming out, on the timeline, you would see Bethlehem come into focus in 1 AD. Okay? And as you look backward on that timeline, there's no beginning. There's no beginning in the backward sense. And that's an interesting description of who this ruler is. So now we do understand that this statement is about the eternal nature of the Messiah. We'll consider what's said next. He said, therefore will he give them up until the time that she which travails is brought forth. Then the remnant of his brethren shall return unto the children of Israel. So we're told earlier that we're to be like a pregnant woman, a woman with a child. We're to be patient until that child is born. This is what he said, be in pain and labor to bring forth, O daughter of Zion, like a woman in travail. And so that's how it's described. When Micah says this in chapter 5, he's talking about this ruler that's coming from Bethlehem. And this ruler from Bethlehem who's going forth are of old, the primordial, before the beginning. And he describes this. And this is quite interesting. This birth of this ruler in Bethlehem, he's describing that as the whole purpose. You have to bring forth this. So the purpose of humanity, the purpose of mankind, the purpose of history, the purpose of Israel, it is this. It's bringing forth this ruler in Bethlehem. As it should be, a pregnant woman has one goal, and that goal is to give birth. And everything else is subordinated to this, correct? Hopefully. You got a good mother. You know, she stops smoking, she stops drinking, she takes her vitamins or whatever. But the whole purpose is to give this child life. And when we realize this, and we start looking at the history of mankind from Genesis chapter 3 until 1 AD, this is the whole purpose. The purpose is to bring this forth. This is the focus. Everything else is subordinated to this event. And the birth is going to be monumental. It's monumental. It draws all of the things into itself, all of the concerns. So in verse 3, he is saying that it will look like Yahweh has given up. But no, there's purpose. There's a reason for this. Israel will be besieged by her enemies, and it's going to seem hopeless. Since we know who Micah is talking to, when we know who this one that's born in Bethlehem is, right? And he is everlasting. Look on the timeline and consider how things were in 1 AD. How were things as far as Israel was concerned? Israel was a backwater colony of Rome. That's what they were. They were the edge of the empire. And of all of Rome's concerns, Israel, why? Because she'd been pacified. She'd been conquered. Yeah, you had a few zealots, and you had a few people, some ruckus or whatever. Doesn't matter. Israel was completely pacified. She had no army. She had no control over her destiny, no power whatsoever. Completely neutered, Israel was. It's just a bunch of farmers and fishermen, and they told themselves that they were important because they could argue about what the Bible actually said. They would argue about the Torah, the law. The rulers of Israel were insignificant. They were falsely self-important. When you look at the trial and the crucifixion of Jesus, yeah, it was brutal, it was awful, and the Pharisees and the Sanhedrin, they had done these things, but they had no power. They could beat a man up when he was blindfolded, but that's as far as it went. They had to go to the ruler, who in this case is Pontius Pilate. Even King Herod, he's king in name only. He did have some local powers and authority, and he's part of the government, but no, Pontius Pilate was the one. How far has Israel fallen? Correct? But then Bethlehem gave it. Now, when we think about Bethlehem, this is what we see. We have church plays, we have nativity scenes. It's cute and it's precious. The angels, the fact little precious moments, cherubs, and all those things. But I want you to see Bethlehem the way the devil saw it. Bethlehem was an invasion. It was an invasion that couldn't be stopped. One morning, Germans, through their telescope, they saw this. That's what happened in Bethlehem. Now, the invasion began there. And it's absolutely hopeless. And there was nothing that the princes of this world could do to stop it. You look at the Bible narrative, the description of that story and of that time. Herod, hey, he couldn't stop it. Anything he tried was too late. It was too late. He was able to be brutal, vicious, murderous, but it was too late. The invasion had begun. Up until Bethlehem, the war for the souls of men had been fought by proxies. Right? You got imperfect men like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You know, we read the biographies of these men and we just wonder to ourselves, you know, why did God choose them? Why did he use them, right? And then we see outcasts like Moses. Moses, he had a speech impediment. He was hiding in the desert for 40 years. Powerful men. Samson, strongest man in the Bible, brought down by his own appetites. His own appetites couldn't save him. Flawed military geniuses like David and smarty pants like Solomon. These were the proxies. Then you have prophets like Elijah. Elijah suffered from major depression. When we read his story, we see this great flurry of activity, and then we see him hiding. He spends most of his time hiding away, like the agoraphobic who doesn't want to be around anyone. And then Jeremiah preached out of a septic tank. And we see country bumpkins like Micah. God had been fighting this war by proxy, correct? But now, Yahweh himself has entered the battle. No more proxies. The Bible tells us that in times past, God spake unto us by the prophets. But now, in the latter days, he speaks to us by his Son. There's no more proxies. The King has come. Yahweh has arrived. He's entered the battle himself. And the result is this: the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Wait a minute. This man shall be the peace. When the Assyrians shall come into our land, and when he shall tread in our palaces, then shall we raise against him 7 shepherds and 8 principal men, and they shall waste the land of Assyria with the sword, and the land of Nimrod, and the entrances thereof. Thus shall he deliver us from the Assyrian, when he comes into our lands, when he treadeth with our borders. All right, let's break this down. This man from Bethlehem shall be peace. I'm not going to break peace. He is peace. He is the peace. Isaiah calls him Prince of Peace, correct? He's not going to bring peace. He will be peace. You know, one of the things that Jesus told the disciples, he said, telling them, I'm fixing to go, fixing to leave. John chapter 14, you know, if I go again, if I leave, I'll come again. So where I am, you'll be with me. But he's telling them that he's going to leave. And in that entire conversation, which takes like 4 chapters, he makes this statement. He said, my peace I will leave with you. Not as the world, my peace. It was very interesting. If he is peace, which he is, what he leaves with us is himself. He leaves him, Spirit of God, who's also from old, everlasting. Israel's enemy, and in Micah, is the Assyrians. Names can change, enemies are the same. It's interesting, he says they're going to be met by 7 shepherds and 8 principal men. Now, the term shepherds is used a lot in the prophets, and they're not talking about guys that hold sheep. Compare this to when the military was hiding in Jerusalem, right? The daughter of troops. They're making their last stand. They've consolidated what's left, and what's left isn't that much. When peace comes, Mike is telling us that Israel's going to face their enemies with competent men, these shepherds, right? The shepherds and principal men are going to defeat the enemies of Israel. Now, the number 7, when we're talking about shepherds, okay, the number 7 that's the number of perfection. Okay, don't think, well, can we figure out who these 7 guys are, who these 8 guys are? I don't want you to think that way. The Bible doesn't use numbers that way. When he's using the number 7, he's talking about perfect. The perfect number of men, perfect number of shepherds, the complete number, right? Perfect shepherds, perfect shepherds. So the prophets, they're talking about shepherds all the time. They have a lot to say about them, but they're not talking about those who keep sheep. They're talking about the rulers of Israel. They are to be their shepherds. And throughout the prophets, throughout all the prophets, they have a lot to say about these men who were supposed to be protecting, feeding, nourishing, and expanding the flock. And what they had done is they had become predators over that which they were to protect. These are the shepherds. You'll read a lot about it in Isaiah, Jeremiah, and of course the minor prophets, even here in Micah. What was Micah's whole rant about? He's talking about those who were taking advantage of the least able to defend themselves. He's talking about them who had turned the souls of men into merchandise. That's who he's talking about. Who's he talking about? He's talking about shepherds. Those who were to protect, who were to nourish, who were to guard, they had turned the flock into a way to make themselves fat. But now, when peace has come, when he that was from old has come, when he's born in Bethlehem, it's going to change the shepherds. Okay, let's go on a little bit. There are going to be shepherds that are going to lead Israel peace, righteousness, prosperity. What should have been going the whole time, right? Unfortunately, the shepherds in the Bible have become greedy, self-serving taskmasters. They extorted the sheep that they should protect. When he talks about the principal man, he's talking about the rulers, okay? And when peace arrives, the number 8. Number 8 refers to a new beginning, right? 7's the perfect number. 7 days in a week. What happens on the 8th day? New beginning. He's saying there's going to be a new beginning of what human government is supposed to look like. We can look at human government, doesn't matter which side of the aisle you're on. You see corruption, you see self-serving, you see enrichment of self. No. When peace has come, there's going to be a new beginning. Now remember, who's the arbiter between men now? It's Yahweh. He himself has come. Today, the arbiters of morality are, talking heads on the TV or whatever. No. The only arbiter of morality, there's going to be a new beginning of human government. Not the henpecked Ahab, who, or an idolater like Jeroboam. True rulers who fit the description of prince. Okay? Peace is truly wonderful, but the way peace transforms men is also wonderful. This is what the peace, the Prince of Peace, does to us. He transforms us. He changes us into worthy shepherds, into honorable principal men. His presence redefines what it means to be human, changes all of that. The transformative power of the man from Bethlehem is a life-changing revelation, okay? Many examples in the Gospels. You got Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus goes from being a greedy publican to a generous benefactor, correct? The Magdalene, she goes from being the slave of devils to the servant of God. You got Saul of Tarsus. He was ambitious. He was a racist. He was a thug. And he's transformed into the apostle to the Gentiles. He hated Gentiles, but now he loves them. The disciples. What a mess the disciples are. Just narcissists, neurotics. They're fear, arrogant, traitors. Judas wasn't the only one. Who else followed Jesus into the hall of Caiaphas? None of them. None of them. But what happens? They were transformed into men who turned the world upside down. I was talking to a young man the other day, and it's a tremendous thing. These disciples went from being afraid and hiding in their rooms to boldly standing in the temple, declaring the resurrection of Jesus Christ. They were imprisoned. They were tortured. They were killed. None of them recanted. None of them take it back. Why? because that one born in Bethlehem changed who they are. Right? When they saw the boldness of Peter and John and perceived that they were unlearned and ignorant men, they marveled, and they took knowledge of them. They had been with Jesus. These are the backwater farmers and fishermen that we were talking about. No education, no Harvard degree, none of those things. But when they spoke truth. And you can't argue with truth. You can hide it. You can try to corrupt it. But you can't argue with it. And these men, what had transformed them? They had been with Jesus. And such are some of you and me. But we've been changed. Why? Because Yahweh came to Bethlehem. He's changed all things. Now, look what he says. The remnant of Jacob shall be in the midst of many people, as the dew from the Lord, as the showers upon the grass. It tarries not for man, nor waits for the Son of Man. The remnant of Jacob shall be among the Gentiles in the midst of many people, as a lion among the beasts of the forest, as a young lion among the flocks of sheep. Who? If he go through, both treads down and tears in pieces, and none can deliver. Okay, so sometimes it's difficult to discern when prophets are speaking of Israel as an ethnic group, the Jews, or when they refer to a broader group, people of faith. Okay? Now, the description in these verses, Micah is describing a lineage of believers that are what? They're among the nations. They're among the nations. They appear as the dew of the morning and the early latter rains. Okay? They're not dependent on men. They're not dependent on human nature. Irregardless of that. Doesn't matter what empires, doesn't matter what governments, it doesn't matter what culture, it doesn't matter what the signs of the times are. There's going to be a faithful appearance of these men as the dew of the morning, as the former and latter rains, of people that are also powerful and confident. Right? I want you to think about this for a moment. The people of faith who follow that man from Bethlehem, this is who he's describing. Now, they're among nations. And as the dew, as the rain, it's not dependent upon humanity. Right? They're not dependent on human provision. Oftentimes, they're the victim of human enmity. And like the lion, they tread down their enemies. All right, that's okay. I get so far, but lions treading down enemies. When have we tread down our enemies? Okay, I want you to think about this. So Jesus tells Peter, he said, "You're Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it." All right. Since the man from Bethlehem began building his church, 150 empires have risen and fallen. From 1 AD to the present time, empires have been swept into the dustbin of history. And what? The church is still here. Still here. In the time that we're in right now, there seems to be a great falling away. I don't want you to worry about that. The church shall tread down her enemies. Will outlast. Will we be validated? Will we be in charge? Probably not. But as the dew in the morning, we're going to be here. The church is going to continue. And there's nothing that can stop it. When you think about church, obviously you're going to think about this little building right here. And don't look around. But if you did look around, what would you see? You see a bunch of imperfect people struggling with fears and anxieties and ignorance and whatever. That's what you can see. I showed you a picture of what Bethlehem looked like to the devils. What does the church look like to the devils? It looks like a mighty army that has been marching for millennia with flags waving and trumpets blowing. And nothing has been able to stop it. Not fire, not sword, not anything. This is what Micah's describing. This is what the man from Bethlehem will build. as fresh as the morning dew, as refreshing as the spring rain. So this man from Bethlehem, he also takes away another great problem for the sons of Adam and the daughters of Eve. So here, hear, O mountains, the Lord's controversy, and ye strong foundations of the earth, for the Lord has a controversy with his people, and he'll plead with Israel. Oh, my people, what have I done unto thee? Wherein have I wearied thee? Testify against me. I brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. I redeemed thee out of the house of servants. I sent before thee Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. The Lord's controversy, that word means his side of the argument. This is controversy that he has with mankind, not just Israel. So let me ask you this. What has he done to fail you? What has he done to cause you to be absent from him? What has he done? Lay it at his feet. He's giving you permission to do that now. You know, you always hear this, we're not allowed to question God. Sure you are. He's saying it right here. Show me when I have let you down. Correct? Sometimes we don't understand. Sometimes we have to have patience. He hasn't failed us. Hasn't let us down. Testify where the Lord has failed thee. Right? He's brought you out of bondage. He's paid the cost to redeem you. Why is it that we don't have faith? Even though God is faithful. That's the controversy. Right? And the reason is this. There's something wrong with us. And how shall we ever change what's wrong with us? How can that be? Wherewith shall I come before the Lord and bow myself before the high God? Shall I come with him with burnt offerings, with calves a year old? How do I change what's wrong with me? Is it the offerings? If I follow the law, will that be enough? Will that accomplish what needs to happen? Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams or with 10,000 rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? Will that be enough? How can I come before the Lord? Will 1,000 be enough? Will rivers of oil be enough? If I offer even the fruit of my life, will that remove the transgression of my soul? The answer to all these questions is, of course, no. No. The controversy still stands. It's still there. But when the man from Bethlehem comes, it's not possible that the blood of bulls and goats should take away sins. Wherefore, when he comes into the world, he says, sacrifice and offering thou would not. 1,000 rams is not enough. But a body hast thou prepared me. In burnt offerings and sacrifices for sin, you have no pleasures. Rivers of oil is not enough. Then said I, lo, I come. In the following in the book, it's written to me. We just read Micah. Micah who plainly declared, Bethlehem. Bethlehem's going to be the center of the world at one time. The following in the book, it's written to me, to do thy will, O God. When he said sacrifice and offerings and burnt offerings of sin, that would not neither have pleasure therein which are offered. Then said he, lo, I come to do thy will, O God. He takes away the first, that he can establish the second, by the which will we're sanctified through the offering of the body of Jesus Christ once for all. What's the answer to the controversy that God has? Is this man who's going to be born in Bethlehem? All right, so Micah has prophesied about a wicked and corrupt system that brutalizes the helpless. And this wasn't peculiar to Micah at this time. We drew the comparisons to our modern contemporary times. It's the nature of men to prey upon other men. We have been turned into predators, and sometimes the weakest prey is other men. Mankind is fallen. It's fallen and it's become the habitation of every unclean thing. But Micah also speaks of a man born in Bethlehem. He is peace. We rest in him. But when are things going to be made right? Okay. When shall we be vindicated? When Do we experience peace? I don't know. I don't know. But until that, let's look at the final words of mine. I will look unto the Lord. I will wait for the God of my salvation. My God will hear me. Rejoice not against me, mine enemy. When I fall, I shall arise. And when I sit in darkness, the Lord shall be a light unto me. So what do? Well, we're not sitting in darkness. And we haven't fallen to never rise again. We wait. All right. Next week, we're going back to Mordor. Questions? Comments? Anything? Anyone? All right, Jeff, just